50 years ago, there were three, maybe four news channels from which you could get your information in the United States. 1,748 daily newspapers operated on a local level. Combined with a few of the big ones, such as the New York Times, the average paper to household ratio was almost exactly 1 to 1. But times have changed. The television news media grew and grew and grew, adding new staples such as Fox News into the mix and normalizing 24-hour news cycles. And reporting looks more and more like back to back talk shows. The number of daily or weekly print magazines has fallen by a full third since the start of the 21st century, and only 7% of Americans regularly get their news from the printed media. I've been trying to write a sentence that accurately captures what the internet did to the pre existing media environment. To say it shattered it would be far too understated. It shattered it, crushed it. Each individual shard formed the crushed bits into a new sculpture and then shattered it again. The way the average American gets their news, their political information, their beliefs hasn't just changed, but it keeps changing. As soon as you've written your analysis, here comes a new website, a new owner, a new feature, a new algorithm, and it's all dead. For those of us who rightfully question the narrative of the billionaires who run our country, it's thrilling to see their rigid system of information control collapse. Where once images out of a place like Gaza, Lebanon, or Iran showing the humanity and suffering of our supposed enemies would have been impossible to find, now we can all access it instantly. Where once you might have sought out your local group of oddball radicals to get the literature coming out of the global south, now you can find it in seconds. But information is not inherently liberation. While millennials and Gen Z are increasingly likely to be distrustful of authority, skeptical of military intervention, and anti capitalist, far right influence is also growing among the youth. Openly fascistic influencers like Nick Fuentes they now reach an audience of millions. Racist or misogynistic extremists are finding it easier to organize and spread their beliefs, and even well meaning progressives can easily fall into their webs of conspiracy. Today, we talk to Anthony DePice, a social justice organizer, social media aficionado, nurturing relationships for collective liberation, and the creator of the online Global Worker Power Collective, which seeks to link up and harness the synergy of the online left into something a little more constructive than endlessly rehashing the same old arguments on Instagram. Let's get into it.
What you need or what could be. How are the union and the socialist be? Everything I can need, oh I need, oh I need, oh I need, oh the what could be. Oh what could be. Oh what could be. Oh what could be. Oh what could be.
Welcome back to Workers Lit, your favorite show about fighting for the narrative. Anthony, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How about
Doing
y'all?
well. Well, we're doing okay. We're holding it down. We are recording this on the 7th of April at about 6:14 p.m. Eastern Time. We have no idea what's about to happen in a few hours. This episode could be highly irrelevant by the time it's released. We're not sure. We can't comment on it because we don't know what's going to happen, but a lot of threats are being made. There's a lot of scary stuff going on right now. But provided we have a civilization by the time this episode comes out, the topic today is going to be very relevant, as in Jen laid it out very nicely there at the top. Anthony, tell us a little bit more about you, about what you do, favorite book, favorite snack,
Sure.
what you like to do, whatever, Loosey goosey, whatever you want to tell us or not. Social security number,
Okay.
whatever.
Social security number. Those little 3 numbers on the back of your credit card. What does that
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here,
your mother's maiden name and those wacky digits on the back of your credit card.
yes, here on the last podcast, coming to you live from what history will remember as Day Zero.
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's great. Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that intro. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm doing well in the sense that, like, I'm very grateful to be in community with y'all. And yeah, I am just running around like a chicken with its head cut off, I guess, like so many of us with work and yeah, the revolution. And yeah, I don't know. I am interested for sure in being like a cheerleader or whatever, encouraging people, and it has gotten me this far in my activism. And I always swear it off, like every time, inevitably, I'm part of another drama or whatever. I am just like, I can't do this anymore. This is so exhausting, or whatever. But it's like I just really like connecting with people and learning, and that's how I've yeah, evolved or been radicalized or whatever. And because yeah, I grew up like kind of Christo fascist and libertarian and shit. Like my parents, were not yeah, imbuing me with the consciousness that they could have been. And so yeah, it was a lot of just like egg on my face, asking stupid questions, but being transparent about my ignorance and my sincere desire to like grow and learn and be part of movements. And so yeah, I don't know, that's a little bit about me. I can't do like basic answers. Sorry.
No,
Just run my mouth
fantastic.
and sound pretentious.
No, you talk about the drama stuff, and it's funny, and it's like, it's it's disheartening, but then you also like look at like the letters between the like leftists 150 years ago, and they're every bit as messy or
Right? I've
more
been learning that.
now. And there
Yeah.
is something encouraging about that, even though, or maybe discouraging, I'm not sure, but it makes me be like, at least we're not worse,
No, I like that. Yeah,
We've
that's
just been
definitely
like this.
encouraging. Yep.
Kautsky has made a cringe post. We do not need to read it.
Yeah, no, Marx was always mad when he thought like Bakunin was posting cringe or whatever. Uh, well, fantastic. Well, we're talking about some social media today. I wanted to go ahead and get right into it, but before we did, Lenore, you're the only one who's not gotten to talk today. How are you doing, Lenore?
I am working through it. I'm posting through it, less posting through it than I am yapping through it, really. The fun thing about changing your legal name and all your documents is that the resources that the county, the state lays out for you on their website only give you half the steps, and to find the other half, you have to attempt, the incomplete instructions they provide. So, great fun.
Sounds fun.
Well, before we get into it, also please remember that we are now on Patreon.com/workerslit. So people check that out. I should have said it at the top of the episode. I didn't, and that's fine. If you haven't listened to this far into the episode, you're probably not someone who's going to give us money on Patreon anyway. So it's all good. All right. With that out of the way, I want to go through the various ways we interact politically online in different sites. Part one, I think this might be kind of a little fun too. I kind of want to give our like responses to what we feel like the various social media, in the sphere, the role they're playing, the vibes they're giving off, the good and bad, just, a call and response here, association, that kind of thing. First, and certainly not first among equals, certainly everyone's favorite these days, X.com, the everything app, blaze your glory, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Right off the bat, that's the one I had to put first, is one that's just like the way it's interacted in the world is so, gosh, it is just it is, I think, we've talked about this before, I think it's almost single-handedly responsible for the fact that like the journalistic and political consultant class of the last couple of years really think there has been this broad right shift in the average American's opinions because they spend all their time on Twitter/X, the everything
Mm.
app, blaze your glory, all hail Elon Musk. And it has really just, it really, I mean, it's every time I look at that website, we have been banned from it, of course. But every time I like look in there, my burner account, Jesus Christ, that website's gotten bad.
It is still though, like all the Iranian embassies are on there. It's
Oh
where
yeah.
I watch all the Lego animation coming out of Iran. Like, unfortunately, it is where I have the largest reach. I have over 11K on Twitter. Like, I unfortunately like just keep using it because it is still, all the journalists are still on there, right? International journalists, like it is still unfortunately
Mm.
things that you can see on the other sites, whether you're checking like Instagram or Blue Sky more, they pull that from Twitter. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
you
Very
still,
often.
it sucks, and I would never give money to it. I'm not a
Mhm.
blue check, but you still got to use it, I think.
Yeah, like I tend to, I sympathize with where the idea comes from, that, oh, like, you can't keep using it, it's the Nazi bar or whatever. But like,
Mm.
you can say that about pretty much any ruling class owned media hub at this
Mhm.
stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're the ones who have set up this infrastructure. They're the ones who have drawn all the the political and media class to it. At a certain point, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not giving it money, but they have built this they have built this edifice, right? I am effectively shutting myself off from a large swath of how these people think and talk and plan in the open, if I'm not at
Mm.
least looking at it. Now, I of course am not looking at it, but to those who still are, like, I salute your fortitude.
Thank you. I'm so strong and brave.
Well, the thing is, I could sound high and mighty like I'm not on there anymore. Yeah, because they banned my ass.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be like, oh, I'm so cool for not being on there. It's because I was banned.
Uh-huh.
Uh Anthony, are you still on Twitter/X, the
I
everything app, blaze your
am.
glory?
Yeah, and I do agree. Oh, I don't know how to refer to you, Big Nasty. I do agree with you. But like, I also hate that Elon Musk just said that like last week and was like, "Yeah, it's still the place that people go for journalists or for like stories or whatever." And like, yeah, I know that that's true. I'm not gonna refute it, but
Right.
also fuck him. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you too, Lenore. Like, it is what it is. All these platforms are inherently like controlled by, like, I'm so done with the metaverse. I'm like, can we just all get to upscrolled already or whatever? Like, just something like, but obviously no, we can't is the answer. Not in the short term, and so we have to just make our peace, so to speak, and yeah, choose our, what is it, lesser of two evils or whatever that bullshit.
Or
That thing
15
about.
evils, as it were. The
Mhm.
thing with Twitter was that it was at one point, I feel like, and to a lesser extent, but still can be, the place that there was a lot of very like organic journalism happening on Twitter. I mean, it still does to an extent, but I remember like when Ferguson was popping off, like 2014, like that was
Mm,
where like people in newsrooms around the country were trying to follow Twitter to figure out what was happening. In
mm,
2020, that was really the same case, and a lot of very organic organizing, and we've covered Vincent Bevins, If We Burn.
mm,
Things can't just exclusively stay online, but a lot of organic stuff that just popped up in the United States in particular, but not just in the United States. Vincent Bevins writes about how Brazil's protests were largely Twitter driven, were happening on Twitter, and it was so fast and so difficult to keep track of. And we think now, fondly, nostalgically about the pre-Musk days, but the pre-Musk Twitter was also quite anti-leftist
Yes.
in its arrangements. It just wasn't encouraging slurs in the algorithm. But everything short of that, pretty much it already was doing.
mm.
And it was
Jacob, what are
already
you
failing
talking about? It
democracy.
blocks the word cis now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
The
the
most
worst slur you
offensive
can
slur.
the worst slur you can call someone. Um, I remember, I forget who the journalist was that it looked it made sense why he did it, but everybody was like, "What's up, bro?" That didn't know why he was doing it. He tweeted individually every slur, and it only blocked cis. But then if you looked at his page, it was just every slur one after another, and it was like, "What are you doing, bro?"
Wow.
The sacrifices we make for journalism, I suppose. Okay, so we'll move on. We'll move on to what do we think about the blogosphere now? It really is like Substack and Medium at this point. I feel like people's blogs are no longer like there's so few like you just go to somebody's website, even though I wish we did that more. What are we thinking of the blogosphere? Is it dead?
Well,
Is it alive?
this
Is
is
it
the wrong
a site of
place.
struggle?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is the wrong place to admit this. But like, I suck with this because I'm always just like, oh, I don't want to have to read that much. And so
Sure.
I always subscribe, and try to support folks because I know that that's an interesting piece of it too. That like Substack is a place where I know a lot of creators are able to like monetize effectively, and I know similarly to having to engage, on platforms we don't want, we also have to exist in this capitalist hellscape, and so if folks are able to, like y'all brought up your Patreon, and like, yeah, so I don't know, I like that part about it, that there's the potential to support left voices, but yeah, I struggle to be like, okay, now I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes and work through some important information that I probably should.
Yeah. I only really read two, and that would be Kin Clip. I don't read all of them, but sometimes I'll like read some of that. And I like Adam Johnson.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yes, Talia Bots, of course, on Substack.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really good people on there. It's a far cry certainly from. I mean, you see in Substack, right, the culmination of the blogosphere, right, where before everybody had like their own site that you went to, and then of course is distilled down to you know the what did Cory Doctorow say about like, yeah, there's like 5 or 6 websites now, you know, once the infrastructure gets built up, right, and it's becomes sort of a public utility, or at least how that's how it should be run, um then like you see then is when you really have to interrogate the people, the sort of people in the class character like building such an infrastructure. And that's, not to drag it back to Twitter, but that's part of the, degeneration that we've seen there, right, is that all the journalists on Twitter have this opinion of where the US is headed politically because it's built by, the white supremacists from South Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Yeah.
where it begs a question of, right, how to foster media literacy if you're a media person, and how to promulgate and maintain it.
The thing about Substack too is it's a very frustrating platform in that it's one of those websites that keeps trying to reinvent the wheel in ways that are frustrating. Like it keeps trying to be more Twitter-like with every successive update, and not in like an interesting or good way. It is like a site that is good because it allows for some kind of long form media, which is long form written media, which is a good thing. Like it's a thing that we want to continue to have, and because of the nature of the information economy, they want more and more and more bite-sized stuff and hyper shareable stuff and a lot of whatever they call them, restacks or whatever the hell, retweets, and a lot of that, a lot of clicks, and that's led to problems. One thing I think is interesting about Substack though is the power users on there are primarily people that had or some kind of previous following. A lot of them are like op-ed writers for the New York Times, places like that. Some of them still are. Some of them are people who left. There are, I mean, there are collectives like Zetio and Dropsite that are made of people who primarily left, mainstream media, but there are also just writers on there that are just, continuing on the mainstream media thing. I also believe it was Substack where Barry Weiss, like in her self-imposed exile from the New York Times, where she was like, I'm getting canceled. And everyone's like, you quit your job. What are you talking about? That's like where she kind of was set up before she, got given the job of destroying CBS News. I gotta say, while we're on the topic of calling out, Substack has really facilitated a lot of very fascist voices on there as well. There's some great, it's got a better algorithm than like somewhere like Twitter, so you're not going to see it if you have a left wing algorithm, but they do not restrict some really heinous shit from being written on there. And then when they've been called out before, they're like, well, freedom of speech. And it's like, okay, well, freedom of speech has nothing to do with whether you have to let a guy like call for the death of ethnic minorities on your platform. You know what I mean? And so concerning there, to say the least. But, I do root for long form entertainment.
Our organizing group has a Substack. We don't publish as often as I try to encourage everyone to. But just shameless plug here. I didn't write it. One of our comrades did. Has an article coming out this week titled "The Internet versus Real Life." That is really good. And Red Help ATX Substack.
Oh yeah.
Find it, read it, subscribe.
Well, and that sounds like the sort of progression that one should facilitate if one's platform is primarily virtual, right? Tell people that this is strictly other people have said it better than I have, of course. This is strictly a platform for education, right, and for communication. And if you want to do organizing, go outside.
Do we have any thoughts on Reddit?
No. Never used it, actually.
Jen's a top 1% Reddit power user. Actually, if you ever seen,
all I heard was Jen's a top, and I was like, yes.
Okay, cut that. No, if you ever are on Reddit and you see someone has the thing next to their name that says top 1% commenter, like that's the scariest person I've ever seen in my life.
Oh shit!
It's like, what do you mean you're in the top 1% commenters on Reddit? Sorry to our listeners, there's definitely somebody out there that is.
Vincent
and we
Bevins,
love you. We don't mean you. We mean everyone else.
Vincent Bevins.
No.
Vincent Bevins confirmed top 1% power
No. I remember reading in If We Burn, right? He described, and he's talking about the Hong Kong protests specifically, right? He described, because a lot of the buzz for that was generated on Reddit, and he described Reddit very charitably and mildly, in my opinion, as a right-leaning social media site.
Yes.
Certainly not as right-leaning as before. I remember the exclusively white supremacist subs, the worst of them, being banned once Reddit started having ads on. But that is still where you can find a lot of odious stuff in line with apologizing for U.S. imperialism. Which again, like Substack, like the New York Times, right? Any ruling class owned and operated and oriented outlet is going to allow in various forms or another, with the level of invective being the only difference, calling for the furthering of U.S. hegemony.
Where were y'all on leftist 9/11, aka when the Trap House subreddit was banned?
Did that happen?
People were so upset about that.
Did that happen before or after the Donald was banned?
That was the same day. They did it to basically be like, we're equal. We'll ban the subreddit that's like kind of edgy guys that are on the left, and we'll ban the outright fascist subreddit. It's the same thing. It was their attempt at like parody, basically.
Yeah.
Horseshoe theory.
To their credit, those guys said they were so happy their subreddit got banned. It stressed them out that it was such a big thing. If there was a workers lit subreddit, it would stress me out. Like, I'm like, what are people posting on there that's going to get associated with me? We don't have a Discord.
We've resisted that for a long time, haven't we?
Yeah, well, we only post good things. That's the thing. Any thoughts on Reddit, Anthony?
Yeah, I will say I was doing like meme research for Cocktails and Capitalism, which is the podcast Dr. Erica kind of brought me into the creator space. And so I was helping, with that, with like content. And so, to your point too, or focus point, I don't know exactly who raised it, but like about like, Twitter, I cast a wide net. And so like, on Reddit, I found like so many good memes. And I would say like specifically in like leftist spaces, I'm not saying like just broadly it's good, but there's a bunch of, subreddits that are cool. And I'm actually volunteering with emergency workplace organizing, and I'm helping them do some of that research right now too, like to reach workers. But anyway, the memes were really cool, and it was interesting because like it's been around as a platform for a pretty long time. So like I was able to see, like I went through the rankings and I saw like memes that like yeah have consistently been popular or relevant or whatever, have stood the test of time, so to speak. I know that sounds silly, but yeah. So I don't know, that part's interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't. What's the other thing? My wife watches like Smosh, and they use Reddit a lot. Like, am I the asshole or whatever? That's like a really popular thing that's not super problematic. So I don't know. I
Am
think
I
there's
the
spaces for
asshole is
silliness.
Am I the asshole really is the like modern like what was it called, like the dear
Dear
whatever,
Abby.
Dear Abby, that really is the modern Dear Abby. And also just the one of the best, writing prompt places ever, because most of that is creative writing exercises, but they are entertaining, no doubt. I
Yeah,
also want
that's
to
awesome.
add, worst subreddit of all time. Just got to put people onto this. I had I was in a part of a challenge in college to find the worst subreddit we could that wasn't whatever illegal, we'll say. And I found
Uh,
politically NSFW, and it is one of the worst things you'll ever see, folks. I'm
hmm.
not recommending it, but I am saying if you ever want to see people like role playing as various political figures, hooking up with each other,
Oh,
I don't know why you'd want to see that, but I found it and I
no.
won the competition. It's
Is that
truly
where they
evil.
found Byron Gnome's giant cans? Is that where you
It
find stuff
probably
like
is,
that?
to be
Mhm.
honest. It may very well be. I have no idea. All I know is there were people on here that were there's just a lot of like, it was mostly just men being like, I hate AOC, but I'm so attracted to her. Their brains exploding.
AOC porn.
God.
That's
It's
fun.
not even
Can I
porn. It's not
can
even
I make a
porn. It's just like role playing.
can I make a confession? When I
Lenore, I
s-
depends what the confession is.
Oh!
Hardcore
we can cut
editor.
this if you want. We can cut this if you want. The when I started, so I used to write like
Oh,
erotica
I
like
know what
for
this
pay,
is.
right? And like the
Wow.
audition piece, like just hey, submit this to see what your writing style is, right? The first thing I was ever asked to write as part of this was a politically themed like pornographic like 2,000 word piece featuring AOC.
Unbelievable.
Oh
Lenore canceled. We're
my
done. Unbelievable. Okay.
Oh.
Instagram and the meta
Oh no, we're
situation in
just moving
general.
on. That was
Instagram, we're
amazing.
moving on. I have nothing more to say on that.
You cannot post porn on Instagram.
Oh, there you go. There's the transition.
That's the
You can
transition. Yeah.
you can post artistic nudes.
Oh, really? I thought
Yeah.
they had like a nipple ban.
So like Ethel Kane, right, just recently posted an artistic nude of herself. As long as like I think as long as your account is like age restricted, like
Mm.
it'll show up. Well, that's the thing, right? Generally, I'm given to understand like it doesn't show up under like a sensitivity filter. Hers
Mm.
does. I
Hmm.
wonder why.
Oh,
Surely
Ethel
nothing to do with
Kane,
transphobia.
Ethel
Nipples.
Kane,
Mm.
come on the podcast.
I
Hmm.
would explode. I would dissolve. I would explode and
Well, look,
dissolve.
Lenore, we can't have her on the podcast if you're going to explode when she's on here.
I'll work on it. I'll get better.
Contain it.
Anthony, you know your way around Instagram. What are your thoughts about Instagram's its positives and its negatives
Yeah.
from this perspective?
Sure. So the positives are, I guess, I don't know. I mean, like, I will say, so I am, you know, fairly like well read or whatever. Like, I had a good education, but like, I definitely had some learning challenges growing up. And I will say that, like, whether it was because of having like had to with my crazy family or whatever, having had to like read as much as I did and be as like focused on school, or because of like, you know, the challenges that I've had, I don't know, but like whatever it is, I'm just saying I've been partial to Instagram from day one because of the visual side of things. And I was just less like, it felt like homework, honestly, is what I'm trying to say. The other stuff like
Mhm.
Twitter and whatever else, I was just like, it just kind of triggered me, so to speak. And I was just like, I did it. I went on all those places, but I would always go back to Instagram and I always post more. Like even now, this is a backup or whatever. Like, I have my first account or a couple accounts deactivated, whatever. But like, I still have like 20,000, something crazy number of posts just because, like, mostly I vibe with it more than other places. So I will say, yeah, positively, I like, especially at the beginning, because now it's like everybody's really good at crafting, visually compelling narrative or whatever. Like, so there's still plenty to read and like work through or whatever. But and I guess just because I've gotten more serious and like, you know, more plugged into so many different communities, there's like just a never ending amount of content. But like, yeah, I will say that felt fun. It felt like personal or whatever, when I first got on there. And then I don't know, I mean, like, it's been the most conducive for all that stuff that, you uplifted at the beginning of like just building, community, broadly. Like, I wouldn't say it's the best for international, because like TikTok has been way better, and then that led to like Red Note, which was really interesting. And I don't think we're talking about those, but yeah, I don't know. That's where my mind goes a little bit with that. I didn't even touch on Threads or Facebook, but whatever.
Are y'all on Threads? I never even tried that.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
I'm
am
on.
I am on Threads in the sense that when we post something, it automatically cross posts
It
to
crosses,
Threads, but
yeah.
that's
Hmm.
like the extent of my interaction with Threads. Every now and then I'll go on there, and since I don't like follow a lot of people on there, I just get whatever the algorithm gives me, and it gives like the most like LinkedIn core like take I've ever seen in my life. But my understanding is there's cool stuff on Threads if you
Yeah.
seek it out.
What is Threads
Uh
exactly? Is it like Twitter but it's Instagram?
It's Twitter, but it's
uh
Yes.
Facebook, right?
Exactly.
Mm,
Yeah,
Well,
mhm,
yeah, whatever. Metaverse. Yes.
mm.
same. Yeah,
yes. Well, the metaverse
I'm
is
with you.
canceled, fortunately. The
it
actual
has
metaverse
been.
The
itself.
actual metaverse.
It's
Thanks,
it
thanks,
was like
Sky
40
Daddy.
they spent like $40 billion on it. Like that's
80
crazy. 40
billion.
billion dollars.
I'm so glad. I love it when
Scaling up,
rich
y'all. We
people
should
do
be so
stuff.
lucky.
It was so beautiful. Um yeah, I really hope the people that were working on like the metaverse, quote unquote, were just not doing anything the whole day, and that's why it didn't like I'm not saying that they were. I'm just saying I love to imagine that like a lot of people were just taking paychecks to not build the metaverse because they knew it was stupid.
Yeah.
I think I'm hoping. I like to imagine that. I think people should do that.
Yeah.
Jen, you do a lot of cool stuff on Instagram.
Do I?
How Yeah, you make cool videos. I mean, you post them on everything though, but like your videos like people like those. Talk about that. Why do you do that? The
Why do
the
I make
inside the mind of Jen Big Nasty, as it were.
Oh, a content creator, big nasty. So I mean, I've had an Instagram forever, right? Mostly just pics of my life. It was heavy on the roller derby for a long time.
Hmm.
Just the sweatiest, most disgusting photos. Smiling with all my friends. Lots of that. Lots of dogs. But in 2024 is when I got to be a part of the Hello Comrade project that
Hmm.
sent me to Vietnam to go learn about Vietnamese socialism. And
Hmm.
I basically had to create a TikTok account for that. They wanted us to
Hmm.
make some content before, during, and after. And so that's actually when I started making videos. I actually do
Hmm.
all my videos on TikTok first because they have captioning that you can go through and
Mm,
edit really easily, and then I just post those. But I yeah, so that's how I
Mhm.
actually started making like educational socialist propaganda. Was actually for Hello Comrade, and when I came back, I kind of enjoyed it.
Hmm.
I like talking, and I honestly I really enjoyed curating my little background and like
it's
um
lovely.
It's amazing, by the way.
thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry.
So I I don't do it every day, and like I try to make sure that it doesn't feel like a job, right? Like I don't get paid for it, so like I try not to allow myself to feel like I have to make content.
Hmm.
Um but I have an insane book collection because I'm obsessed with buying used books. If a book is under $5, I'm going to buy it. And so like I think it's a really cool way that I've been able to share some of this stuff
Hmm.
with it being in that short form where it's just a paragraph or two. Sometimes I explain it, sometimes I feel like it's self-explanatory.
Hmm.
But I've really enjoyed making that. You have to kind of keep it under 3 minutes, at least for Instagram. Otherwise,
Hmm.
they like yell at you about your reels are too long. Um, but I don't know if that answers your question. I've enjoy it though, and I really it's National Poetry Month, so I've been reading poetry every day, which is
Hmm.
like I fucking I think if everybody behaves themselves, I might pull out some fucking smut I wrote in my 20s.
Oh, let's go.
Poetry smut. I was so horny in my 20s, and so that is what I wrote poems about.
I
So
think
that might
you
be
were the
fun.
last person on the podcast who hadn't written smut. I assume I should had.
I should
Yeah,
have done.
of course. I'm
Uh,
sure we all have. Yes.
But we
We're all
can't
right.
hey,
drink Lenore now. Yeah, we
I
gotta
was
keep
paid to do
that
it.
piece in
I
from when you shared.
I didn't do political, but I was once paid to write a Captain America Iron Man fan fiction.
Mhm,
Wow.
mhm.
Was that
You can
smut?
Yeah, wait,
Yes,
what
it
kind of?
surely
Oh,
was.
okay.
I mean, that's essentially political these days.
That's essentially political. I mean, I don't know. Some really good politics in those Marvel movies. Am I right? Uh, uh, uh,
Oh man.
gosh, uh, if- cannot recommend highly enough. Friend of the pod, Vijay Prashad's lecture about Black Panther 2. It's one of the greatest speeches of all time. One thing I find on Instagram, more than even the other platforms, at least the ones I engage with, the speed and like ease of disinformation on Instagram is very difficult. And I don't just mean like right wing disinformation, that's everywhere, right? I don't mean that.
Mm,
I mean like left wing, usually earnest disinformation, like just being wrong about things, is unfortunately like is unfortunately very common on there. The kind of stuff like, the early days of the Iran war, like there was people for like a week were like, well, Netanyahu's 100% dead. That was like a thing that was everywhere for the first
So
few days
wishful.
of the war. And yeah, what, how lovely would that have been, right? Like we're still rooting for it. Like it's
yeah,
that kind of content is the stuff that's very exciting. Really big claims like,
yeah.
oh, not to say that Iran hasn't hit US bases, but people will post an AI video that's kind of grainy of
Mhm.
something. And it's like, well, I want to share that. That looks badass. Is it true?
Yep.
Is it not? Well, unfortunately, we don't have like a very reliable, like baseline mainstream media that should be doing the fact checking because the fact checkers we all know are fucking bullshit for the most part. I mean,
Hmm.
there are people that are trying to do good work, but like they're drowned out by like what journalism in this country is. That's very hard. How do y'all navigate it? And how do we feel like principled people on the left should? Because it is this problem that we addressed in the sort of opening monologue here of our media is like knowingly deceptive. It does not give the full story. On the other hand, independent creators, even well-meaning independent creators, do not have the resources of a CNN or a Fox News. So
Yeah.
the people that should be using their resources to get the truth are lying, and independent creators are doing their best to discern the tea leaves. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm feeling attacked.
I'm
That's
not
you
attacking
describing me
you.
perfectly. No, I'm kidding. I'm saying like that is always the saga, and like if I look at the trend for my work, I increasingly slow down and try to like suss things out, but like that was a very painful journey, so to speak, and
Yeah.
it continues to be a pain because it's like I set up my shtick to begin with in that like I want to encourage people, and I feel like we're all like rightfully depressed and enraged by everything, and like and so I am just like always in that state of like um okay, here comes the next hit or here comes the next, and it's often like maybe well-meaning people, maybe not, but like behind a mask or behind whatever, they're just like the comment is like very blunt generally and rude, and like my tendency historically has been like, well, fuck you, and like
Right.
whatever, and it's not right, and it's not principled at all, so it's not what I'm recommending, and I do agree 100% that people should try to slow down and like do more, but I appreciate the acknowledgement about like that we are like scrappy creators and we don't have all these resources, and so it is a learning process. So I don't know, I think that's what I'm always going to go back to though with left organizing, digital organizing, is like, can we do this in a way that's a bit more patient, or like coming from a place of believing the best about people, because
Mhm.
these platforms, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this about Instagram in particular, but it's like not only do they thrive on like quick and trendy stories or whatever, but they thrive on conflict, and they can
Right.
say like, people will say, oh no, the engagement algorithms have changed and the metric, it's bullshit. The reality is that like people just are put in these cycles of conflict. And so anyway, that's an example of it. obviously that will come up again, I'm sure, but like
Yeah.
I can't not bring that up because it's just like that's where I go with that.
Yeah, there are good reporters or people that I would consider, reporter adjacent. People like Ben Norton. I
Mhm.
listen to his stuff. I watch as much of his stuff as I can because I feel like he really like is on the pulse of what's
Mm,
going on, especially when it comes to like international politics. And people like Abby Martin or Greg
mm,
Stoker. Like there are people that make content whether short or longer form that definitely like have these contacts and are
Breakthrough News is another one that I think is
breakthrough
pretty
news. Yeah.
consistently
Mhm.
solid.
Ben Norton in
Uh,
particular is also really, he has these contacts, yes, and he parlays it into such clear explainers of things that are like quite complex. If you're confused about the petrodollar, right?
Hmm.
If you're
mm,
confused about how like global finance works, like he's very good at breaking these things down.
Yes, I
mm.
love the way he pronounces words too. His name is Ben
also,
Norton.
yeah, it's tough, and I think what we got to do is we got to consistently try to build more and more like actual like left wing journalistic organizations. That's going to be important. That's why I appreciate things like Breakthrough News. I appreciate things like Mint Press. What they're trying to do is really
Mm,
cool. We've got to support that. Because the fact of the matter is, the reason the New York Times can do a very deep investigative story with a lot of contacts is they have resources and years building those contacts, and they can spend time and they can pay journalists to do it. And, once upon a time, they still covered for Empire, but they used to do some pretty damn good investigative journalism from time to time as well. That is becoming increasingly uncommon. There's still a few
mm,
decent journalists working for these organizations, but increasingly less so, which is why we're seeing more stuff like Dropside, Zetio, things like that, Breakthrough News, these kind of organizations. I expect to continue to see it to flourish. We're going to have to see what form it takes and where they're going to be hosted, which is something that I'm interested in.
Hmm.
mm,
Hmm. Yeah, our role certainly as like independent media sort of people is certainly to recognize, yeah, okay, so these institutions have the resources, but it falls to us then to parse them, because
mm,
they to see where
mm.
where like objective fact and like statistics begin and the ruling class slant ends.
What about TikTok? I mean, a lot of what we said for Instagram also applies to TikTok, but there's definitely some additions there, and I'm less versed with this one, so I'll leave that to one of
Never
y'all
touched
that
it.
Anthony, are
knows it
you on
better.
TikTok?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Have you noticed a change since the takeover?
I got my repression or whatever pretty early.
Mm,
And so I gotta say no, but it's
yeah.
because like, yeah, I have pretty much zero reach.
Oh shit.
Um, well, whatever. I mean, like I think I can get 1,000 views on a video, but like, um, yeah, it's kind of insane. And I have like groups or chats or whatever different things that I do to help with it. But yeah. So anyway, how about you? I was gonna defer to you here.
I noticed a marketed change like within that
Mm,
first week.
mm,
I have about 6,000 followers and I get a few
mm,
more every day, and
mm,
yet I have not broken like 500 even views, not likes, just views on a video since
mm.
the takeover. Like
Oh damn.
it was so obvious. It
Okay.
happened like immediately.
Mm.
So yeah, I still use it cuz I like the editing tools on it to
Right?
make like
Yeah.
the reels and then I put them on YouTube.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
I get zero traction. It's
Yeah.
crazy how
Mhm.
quickly that happened.
That is something interesting that I find about like the social media apps is that very frequently they will have I'm thinking of Instagram right now, they will have
Mm.
better and more expansive like photo editing tools than just like on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm.
YouTube will do the
And
same
that's what
thing.
I
YouTube
use.
Mhm.
Studio has some resources.
Mm.
I think it's interesting with TikTok is I think TikTok really was the place that Gen Z got radicalized, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. Oh, now let's be clear.
Yeah.
Gen Z is also getting radicalized by the conditions of their own life, but they're getting their language a lot of times from TikTok, which is
Mhm.
good with an asterisk. It's good, but also it's like if you look at the stats, the percentage of Gen Z, it's like half of Gen Z say that like, oh, when I have a problem, I just Google and TikTok, not Google, I search in TikTok what the answer is. And like you're gonna get
Mm.
whoever answering that question. They're gonna ask about mental health or ask whatever. Maybe it's gonna be a great answer, but also TikTok doctors are notoriously bad, and they're selling
Mm.
supplements left and right. I was talking with
Mm.
some family about this. I have family that's in the medical profession, and they just all the time now they say people come in and they're like, well, my TikTok, this doctor on TikTok told me that if I do this, this, and that, it's like
God.
people that are like nominally smart, but if someone sounds confident and they're in front of a camera, they look clean,
Yeah.
they're wearing a white jacket, they look like a
Mm.
doctor, you know, or maybe they are a
Mm.
doctor and they're still selling you bullshit, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is what scares me, right? About the breakdown of this sort of shared consensus reality.
Mm.
The shared consensus reality was bad. It was pro empire. It was pro capitalism. It was hard to
Mm.
break through. It was increasingly hard. I mean, like God, during the Iraq War era, getting anti-war media was incredibly difficult. You had to like
Mm.
get on a dial-up internet connection, right, to find stuff. But now it can just be this, and it leads to these increasingly small circles, and we're going to talk about it a little more later, but I just come back to how do we build consensus reality in such a disorganized information sphere?
Mm.
And maybe it was bad that I chose this topic for an episode because I don't have the answer for y'all. Let's see. Discord. Thoughts on Discord, folks? Lenore, you know about Discord. We know about Discord.
Yeah. It's fun for like, you know, specific communities. Like my big thing lately has been like trans femme book clubs. You know, it's I mean, it's basically downstream of, I mean, everything we've talked about so far. It's downstream of news media. It's good, I think, for reaching a lot of people very, very quickly. I know, like, it defaults like notification wise, right, to like everything, and you have to like manually turn stuff off. So yeah, just in terms of infrastructure and immediacy, right?
Mm.
It's similar to Signal in that way.
Mm.
Discord has been where like some of the funniest leaks of the 21st century have all occurred on Discord. Like so many, there have been so many leaks, just like guys, like army guys who were just like flexing to their friends, being like, check this out, and just like post
War
schematics of like
Thunder.
new
This happens
fighter
all the
jets.
time.
It's so sick. I did like the media when they were covering the Charlie Kirk assassination and the guy that they've got as the sort of alleged killer. I who knows about all that, trials ongoing, but like when they were like looking at his Discord, and
Mm.
previously mentioned Ken Klippenstein was the guy who that like got into the Discord that he was in and saw all
Mm.
his recent messages. I have no idea how he pulled that off. It's crazy the stuff this man makes happen. But the I loved the reporting on it. Like it was so like people were so behind the times. It was like Fox News was like Discord, a website that's also known for having, and they just like named multiple large Discord groups. The same way that another place reported, it said that he had played games on Steam, the same platform that has many shooting games. And it's like, come on. It's like saying he's on the internet, the thing
Who
that
is the
also has.
mysterious hacker 4chan?
Yes, exactly. Discord, I found, is a place that a lot of right wing shit has been able to foment, though. You can build these
Mm.
closed groups, and a lot of these, like, sort of radicalized alt right school shooter types, like specifically the school shooters and stuff like
Mm.
that, that have been like ideologically driven, have very often been deep in these right wing like discords, including like
Mm.
some very Kill the Computer podcast did some really good deep dives into the world of right wing Discord, but like there are some very specific communities that aren't just like communities that are there. Like they're communities that are adults encouraging teenagers to do school
Mm.
shootings on Discord. Like this
Mm.
exists, and Discord's aware of it, and it continues to happen.
They're not. They're just normal adults. They're not feds. Because I know. I feel like
They
that's
might be
like what
feds.
the FBI does. Yeah,
Some of them might be
Frequently.
feds. Some of them,
Mm.
some people are just freaks. You know.
that's fucked up.
I mean, the feds are
That's
freaks
also
too.
cowardly. Go do it yourself, bro.
Yeah.
It is also more, I mean, structurally, right? Like the people who like moderate and own a Discord server, right? It's similar to Reddit, but like without as much like external linking and encouragement and ease of use as
Yeah.
Reddit. So yeah, it's a very it lends itself very, very well to a closed community that you know, if you're a vulnerable sort of person who's susceptible to that kind of stuff, you know, can go to some dark places.
but also it can be, you know, a place where you build something really positive. You know, that's
Mhm.
the double-sidedness of it. What about Telegram and WhatsApp? Telegram, I'm gonna say Telegram for me has been invaluable in actually following like people that live in other countries and like the stuff they post, like their telegrams they host. Now, you're gonna get some of the craziest takes you've ever seen in your entire life, and you do not want to read those comment sections. It's people arguing in different languages through Google Translate. But
Mm.
uh but like actual video and stuff on the ground in places like
Yeah.
Gaza, places like Iraq and
Yep.
Iran, it has been among the best. Places like Cuds News Network on there, places like, again, really despicable politics a lot of the time, but somewhere like War Monitor are going to have like really, really well curated, just like, hey, this guy just posted this video like on his Snapchat story in Iraq and we just uploaded it here in a way that like none of the other platforms I've really found, except maybe Twitter, like at its heyday.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, kind of similar to Twitter though, where like I know a lot of like right wing folks use that, but yeah, also have seen that frontline reporting, which is invaluable. So
I'm in a Yemen one.
Mm.
That has it's all translated into English. That has a lot of really cool, like up to date information. I also
mm,
just like Telegram. I feel like it's more secure than Signal for like talking to real people I know about organizing stuff. So we kind of
mm,
just use it for that.
mm. And I can't move on without mentioning the chats on Instagram because that's where I do most of my community building.
Mm.
So that is one thing that yeah, I don't give Zuck any credit for, but like it's been a cool journey making all those and like yeah, the like community. I don't know if there's gonna be another place to plug this or whatever. I'm not trying to plug it honestly, um but like the community stuff is like beyond anything I could have dreamed because it's like I've got people like y'all, like organizers in like almost every state in different countries and whatever, and like they're not like having organizing conversations that they shouldn't be having on Instagram. They're uplifting mutual aid, they're uplifting things that are already public, they're making connections, especially rural folks or folks who don't have the ability to find people around them, and they're admins. Like it's not even my shit, it's just like people running these spaces and using them, and with like the ice kidnappings and everything, it's just been yeah really helpful and really humbling to me because like I said, I'm constantly at the place where I'm just like everyone's mean and I hate myself and these places and I just want to stop and like so yeah, I don't know, while we're talking about platforms. And again, giving zero credit to Zuck. That is in spite of everything that it was designed to be. But yeah.
Apologies for the pause. I just was seeing Trump just announced a 2-week ceasefire in Iran.
That's his big announcement.
That's
I mean,
the
look, I'm glad, but are you fucking? We're gonna destroy
yeah.
every bridge with a ceasefire. Okay.
And the
Okay.
civilization. The newest one was the entire like country is gonna be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
he said that.
crazy is-
He said that Pakistan told him not to do it, and so he didn't.
What's crazy is Trump announces a 2-way ceasefire. He says the Strait of Hormuz will open, Iran will stop firing, and then the immediate next notification is Iranian missiles slam Tel Aviv. It's like I don't know that
We
they've
never thought
stopped.
about that.
You can-
Netanyahu didn't call for a ceasefire.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You can bomb Tel Aviv before midnight as a treat.
we'll
Yes.
this may get cut. I don't know. Sorry, I just had to address. Okay, last bit. The other ones. Blue Sky, Mastodon, Tumblr, Upscroll, whatever you want to talk about. Throw it out there. I like Blue Sky, but I'm told it's dying by people on there because trans people are too mean. That's what all the journalists from Twitter say. They're like,
Yeah,
"Everybody
that's
come
the-
here and
that's the
tweet
thing
slurs.
that-
Trans people are too mean to me on here." And it's like, yeah, that's kind of part of what I like about it.
Blue
But
Sky
it is true
for
that it's
the
only about
dolls.
it
Well,
is
that's
only
the
like
thing.
1.5 million people that are on there, like totally.
Wait,
Though.
and that's the thing. Like, it wasn't originally built, as I understand it. Like Jack Dorsey, formerly of Twitter, right, built it
Yes.
as like a fucking like crypto trading like post or whatever, and then a whole bunch of trans people and furries and like other like marginalized people who are real people
Sex workers. Yeah.
got hold. Yeah, exactly. Got hold of it and
Mhm.
started sharing invite codes around, and
Yeah.
now
This
we're in a
looks like a ban from
situation
Twitter.
where like the lack of an algorithm actively promoting Nazis makes Blue Sky objectively better than Twitter in many ways.
Mm.
Yes.
But their
Yes, it
leadership
is.
actively hates its user base and
Yes.
considers us a burden.
Yes.
Mm.
Mhm.
When I first
Marginalized
joined,
people such as me once I got banned from Twitter. Go on, Jen.
yes. I liked Blue Sky when I first joined. I joined, somebody offered me a code, and immediately it was just trans lesbian drama, and I was like, oh, this is like story time. It was amazing.
Mm.
And it was nothing to me. I mean, it seemed like nothing but trans anarchists like ran the thing, which
Mm.
I am very, I'm obviously a Marxist Leninist. I
Mhm.
love the anarchist comrades though. And
Yeah.
I did never. Blue Sky is where I post more fun. I don't post real life stuff on Twitter because it's full of Nazis, but I always
Mm.
liked Blue Sky where I can post my little jokes and talk about eating cheese and watching Star Trek or whatever. That's what I like about Blue Sky. But yeah, ever since the 2024 election, it got like bombarded with vote blue no matter who liberals that
crazy
kind of
blue
took
wave.
That
over
part.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like like there's a marker you can add to accounts that says when they joined, and the worst ones always say joined November 24. Like the worst ones. So I feel like recently it's been taken over by those people, which is very frustrating.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I don't know. You can get really good posts, like from people like Senator Reverend Rockfile Warnock saying, "Don't let the Iran war distract you from his mission of funneling wealth from the bottom to the top," as if that's not what the Iran war is also about.
Mm.
You get really
Clergy
good posts.
clergy should not hold political office.
Mm.
I don't feel like that should be controversial.
Separate.
Mhm.
I
Literally.
I think that we can make it. Never mind. I'm not going to say that.
Well,
Fuck that.
and in this case, especially when they can't say "Stop Cop City,"
Yes,
that is
exactly.
just so
I-
fucked up.
Clergy should not hold political office. However, lesser of two evils. I will be voting for Ayatollah Khamenei in the upcoming.
We got an excuse for
look,
Sharia
Don't let the
law,
perfect be the enemy of the good. Okay.
Woke Sharia law. Woke Sharia.
Um, Also, I just want to say with Upscrolled is I would like Upscrolled to succeed. I've had a really bad time on there. My attempts, it's just been really spammy. That's the problem, though. When people like try to make platforms with you don't have a certain level of resources, it can be very difficult. And
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
y'all have had that experience or not.
I've had spammy. I've also had anti-Semitic.
A lot of that, yeah.
Yeah. But like, I think that goes back to that point before that you were bringing up, Lenore. I think best about like literacy because sadly, folks just fall prey. Like we're watching it in such a big way on all the platforms, but like to that specific fallacy of anti-Semitism and like yeah, it's just really gross. And like you're saying about the Iran war being the same thing as like the capitalist mission. Yeah, it's just like gross and sad, and like we have to confront it and call it out, and like yeah, not shy away from it, because it's such a weakness on the left. Like it gives all the Zionists like some credence. And yeah, so I don't know, that is a sad part, I will say, of that. But yeah, I also kind of similar to what we said about Telegram and Twitter and whatnot. There's a lot of good journalists on there at the same time, especially in Gaza. There's a lot of like, yeah, people that were banned from other places, like what's his name, Christensen Christensen I don't remember the exact. It was a student in Ohio who was banned from Instagram and elsewhere for speaking about Palestine, and yeah, so there's a bunch of folks like that. Mohams, is a big proponent, and yeah, I don't know. We need spaces that feel welcoming or whatever, like Instagram did at first, but that have, like we're talking about, an algorithm that not only doesn't prioritize Nazi stuff and hateful stuff, but actually, yeah, the global South and revolutionary thinking. So I don't know. That's my stump speech for checking out Upscroll. But because like while you're right about the spam and stuff, they're also incredibly transparent about their process, and they're
Sure.
like doing the best that they can, like you said, and not just that, like they're responsive. Like I will say, Upscroll was the only place where I got a blue check mark. And it was just
Yeah.
because they were like, "Oh, you have 1,000 followers, like on Instagram. Just let me know, and I'll edit." And they did that, and I helped other people who have migrated over recently, so to speak, do that. And like, yeah. So I think there's hope for it, but yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for sure, especially if folks don't give it a chance. So that's my
Mhm.
plug, I guess.
Any more thoughts
Yeah.
on this before we talk about the online right and the online left a little bit?
What do you mean they're the same? Horseshoe theory.
Ha ha ha. Well, that's all we have for today, Jen. It's solved.
Oh my god.
Something that's just been getting me about the online right is to talk about the online right a little bit. Is I feel like God, this opening gap between young men and young women, especially, so much of it stems from these communities that young men are getting into on the online right. Boys and young men are getting into. Not to say women are not. There are not like right wing spaces that are trying to win women. There's like the sort of the Mormon church backed like homesteader influencers that are trying to be a trad
Trad
wife.
wife stuff,
But
yeah.
honestly, I feel like the trad wife stuff is more still for men. It's basically porn. It's basically porn. Like half of it is just
Well, I
like that.
mean, yeah,
There
because
is
it.
stuff that's meant to get women, but like that's what I.
Mhm.
Sorry, Lenore, go ahead.
I mean, well, that's patriarchy, right? The stuff for women is essentially for men because
That's true. Yeah.
in their conception, we are for men.
But
Mm.
we've seen in it's splitting the United States. It's happening all over the world. Most dramatically, we've seen it in South Korea, the really extreme gender divide on politics that has led to a lot of like feminist separatist movements and things like that, which is kind of beyond the scope of the conversation. But it is a lot of what a lot of that is coming from these like right wing communities that young men are getting to online. These influencers like Andrew Tate, like Nick Fuentes, who has millions of views and is saying stuff like every woman should start in jail and then we should figure out which women should be allowed out. And I'm just like imagining the logistics of this like
Oh my
bizarre
god.
dystopia this little freak has cooked up.
Oh
And
my god.
and then he'll be
Fuck
like, "Oh,
Nick
it's hyperbolic
Fuentes.
or
I'm
whatever." But
sorry.
it is really turning men against men, really a lot of them boys
Mm.
against women. And I'm not using this to be
Mm.
like, "Oh, those poor kids," like whatever. I feel bad for them at the same time. Like you have to take responsibility for the things you say and do. But
Mhm.
it is a real political problem, and the split is becoming increasingly severe, both in opinion polling, the way people are talking, and also you look at the votes from the 2024 election. You can see a
Mhm.
very severe, especially in Gen Z, gender gap there. So,
Mhm.
thoughts on how the internet's like contributing to that?
Hmm.
Well, Jacob, you are our local Gen Zer. Did you
True.
feel at any point like some of that stuff was trying to speak to you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It is definitely aimed at straight men, I will
Right.
say.
Right.
That they
Mm.
are the majority of men.
But Nick
Um,
Fuentes is gay, is he not?
he's not openly gay. It's like a thing we
Oh,
all
but
know.
everybody knows. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
it's a
I thought you were
Lindsey
joking.
Graham.
Yeah.
It's a Lindsey
Yeah.
Graham Charlie
Exactly.
Kirk situation.
Okay.
Yep.
I've been on the record about my underground knowledge about Charlie.
Yeah.
Back from
That's a
college.
new one for me. Wow.
Oh yeah. Back in college, it was the TPUSA at our college. I was not in it, but I knew some people in it through political organizing on campus. Not with them, against them, but
Mhm.
I heard through the grapevine as far back as like 2017 that Charlie Kirk was gay. And listen,
Huh.
what has Candace Owens' reaction to the death of Charlie Kirk is the type of reaction you only see from a woman when she loses her gay best friend. So that's what I'll say about
That's
that.
true.
That's more proof of that. She was the only one who liked him, and it is driven her insane.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I've definitely seen a lot of that content, and I mean, my younger sibling that's even younger than me and more like firmly in the Gen Z demographic because I'm kind of on that millennial cusp, has told me like so many of his friends watch like Andrew Tate,
Really.
Mansphere content, and he says a lot of them watch it like pseudo ironically. They're like, "Ha, look at this guy," but a
Right.
lot of
But
especially when you're 14,
mhm.
what's the line between irony and real life is very thin.
It breaks through. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have to say, like, the first show that I was on was Movies First Capitalism, and I talked about The Dark Knight with them, and like you know, I kind of just shared about like the fork in the road, because it's like when you're a young cishet white dude, you know, it really does, you know, matter who you're exposed to, so to speak, like what your surroundings are. And I'm not babying those folks. Like I agree
Yeah.
100%. Fuck them if they're being hateful little shits. And like, you know, they deserve every kind of accountability that is coming to them. But like, yeah, it's just interesting how effective I think those folks are. And like, you know, it's interesting too with like the Dems saying like, oh, we need to have, you know, those kind of like masculine figures on the liberal side or whatever, and then they're crucifying Hassan, you know, and
Mhm.
like, you know, I don't know, it's just I think sad and fucked up how effective it is. I just watched that documentary with Louis Theroux about the Manosphere stuff too, and like I listened to Matt Bernstein, who did a couple episodes on this, and yeah, I don't know, I just I think it's yeah incredibly dangerous,
Yeah.
and like that faux independent thing is the worst part, because it's like, you know, I used to listen to Rogan, I'll say, and like um and he was like fine, like he was a fine, like interviewing wise, I'm saying like his vibe was fine, like it wasn't like he was in the episodes I heard, he wasn't like interviewing these white supremacists or like doing these things. But like
He was doing sports as often as
once
anything
I
back
knew
in
he
the
was
day.
doing
Yeah,
that though, once I knew what he was doing, you know, with the vaccines and just
Mm.
all these different things, I was like,
exactly.
oh fuck this dude. But like it was yeah just easy to like have it on, you know, kind of like people do with radio or whatever else, or have historically, and so like yeah I don't know, and just the idea of like um you know how I think effective like you were bringing up too, Lenore, about like the expectations around patriarchy. It's like, you know, there's these rules, and then it's like, oh well, you're not going to actually be able to measure up to any of them,
Mhm.
and there's all these problems, there's all these things. So even for like boys like me who are like sensitive growing up and whatever, it's like, oh well, there's all these bad things going on, there's all this like, so what can we do, how can we help, or how can we
Yes.
find our place, or
Mhm.
how can we like feel strong, or feel like all these different things. And it's like not that way. Like, you know, fuck that shit. But yeah, that's going back to what I brought up first about the other podcast. You know, it was just like you can see how like that impulse of like, you know, admiring like a Batman or whatever, it's like not a terrible impulse. It's just the vigilante, you know, thing, or the white supremacist, or all these hateful fucking, you know, things. But it's like that framework is powerful of like there's, you know, the problem, and there's, you know, the agency or whatever, there's just all this like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but like there's all this storytelling stuff basically, there's all this, you know, culture that is missing, and like there's all this
Mhm.
yeah sort of support that's missing, and it's like, oh well, you can get it from these figures. And then like to that, the show I brought up, you know, the Manosphere one, is like then when these kids go up to these guys and they say this hateful shit or whatever, they instinctively reject what they're saying, and they're like saying, "Oh no, don't do that, don't blah blah blah," because you know it's performance for them, but it's not
Mhm.
performance for trans folks. It's not performance for marginalized people that are feeling the violence and hearing the rhetoric, and you know like dealing with the impact. So I know that was a lot. I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
know
No,
great.
I'm
it's
just something
absolutely
like
it's
bullshit,
absolutely
but
correct. You know, part of that performance is indeed maintaining the deniability, maintaining that
mm,
partition between
mm,
you, if you're an Andrew Tate, and the legion of rapists that you're cultivating. Right? You
mm,
know,
mm,
it's always the it's always whenever like somebody does like a shooting like in the name of, oh, like preserving the white race or whatever. Okay, yeah,
mm,
like all these right-wing figures will say, well, we don't support that, we don't support that, we don't support that, but they support everything leading up to and including it.
mm,
And like it's as you say, it's as you say, Anthony, like there is a strain there is a desire for hope, right, and solutions, right? People are aware that their conditions are deteriorating. They are aware that they're being lied to. You know, I had a long conversation with my uncle who like went for Trump the first time, not the second time,
mm,
just like, bourgeois, bourgeois, like default kind of like right guy. But like what he said does cut across class lines, I think, which is I just don't like being lied to,
Mm.
right? And now, of
mm,
course, like how that shakes out, how you interpret like being lied to, like your priors, of course, like, that's a conversation for another day, right? But
Mm.
what are we sold in general, um, as an antidote to being, lied to, as we all know we are, right? Um, it's brand identification, right? It's modern day
Mm.
like civic religion, right? It is,
Yep.
Alex Jones has his supplements, right?
Yep.
Fucking Andrew Tate has his empire of pornography, right?
Mm.
And the Democrats on the other side of it, right? What are they selling? Oh, give us $15, to say no to the nuclear annihilation of Tehran. The reason they jump from trend to trend, right? Like
Mm.
when they were saying, well, we need a male figure to counterbalance the manosphere of the right, right? It's because they're not selling a solution. It's because they're not selling an actual political project that requires and demands
Mm.
mass mobilization, right? They
Yeah.
have all the mailing lists in the world. What are they doing? Are they ordering people out to blockade ICE detention centers and other government
Mm.
facilities
Mm.
until all the shit
Mm.
shuts down? No, they're
Mm.
just asking you for money and asking you for money.
Mm.
And the reason, of course, is in their own roundabout way, right? The liberal, the liberal, the self-styled left side of our ruling class, the people in the blue ties, right? In their own
Mm.
roundabout way, they're serving patriarchy too, because what are they doing with this lack of action? They are maintaining this reactionary force, this fascist
Yeah.
right-wing force, to discipline voters with. We touched on this in our 107 days episode, right? The
Mm.
reason that they don't whip people up into a militant fighting disciplined force that can hound these people out of the media sphere, out of polite society, of public life, is because they want to normalize the idea that if you vote the wrong way, right, if you consume
Mm.
the wrong brand, right, then one day you'll wake up and it'll be Nazi Germany, right?
Mm.
Which obfuscates the fact that these people have always been in government, what, more or less directly, with their fingers on the shiny red buttons, but nonetheless,
Mm.
they are a presence that our ruling class has sought to cultivate. The more polite strains of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No
Mm.
doubt. And uh yeah, as someone who was right there with you, Anthony, I used to listen to Joe Rogan, all that. I mean, he, like I was saying, he had sports people on, whatever.
Mhm.
Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2020, which is very
Yeah, I
funny. It feels
remember that
very far
was
away.
yeah.
But like also now is saying, oh, Trump's actually a terrorist about what's going on in
Every
Iran.
week, and it's like I will also say I don't know about this like left wing thing, and like it's not just Hassan, but like a lot of creators do it where they just play like fascists all the time, like they
Yeah.
play like hours of their content. So it's
Mhm.
like I'm listening to Rogan again through Hassan. I'm like, okay, bro, like, and he's not even like interjecting that much, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
a it's
crazy.
a it's a weird place to be, and the thing is, it's hard to imagine, it's hard to reach this group, but at the end of the day, um, well, there's a lot more to be said, but uh,
Yeah,
let's move on to the online left here.
Those bastards.
It's a lot. It's you know first the good stuff. I mean, like the capacity to organize for individual people that have never really whatever. I mean, in 2020, you really could just tweet like protest at this place, and you could get a few dozen people or more to show up if you lived
Mhm.
in like a major city. You could just, I mean, Occupy Wall Street. It comes out all of the stuff. Vincent Bevins talks about this at great length. Getting the word out, breaking through the
Mm.
disinformation sphere. On the other hand, just it's like, look, socialists and communists and anarchists and every strain of the left have been fighting each other since always. We said it earlier. You've got really some of the most absurd shit you've ever seen in your life back then. Like, the way people are talking to each other, there was just real absurdity. I mean, God, like the way the anarchists would, like, at the drop of the hat in the first international, bring up the fact that Marx was Jewish if they were ever mad at him was really undisciplined and
Um,
messed up.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but now everyone sees it always, all the time, including our enemies. It's not an internal thing. It's a very external, very loud. And what's more, the government, should they so choose, can just kind of sprinkle the stuff in there. How do we know what the government's putting in there or not? We don't know. We may never know. or maybe we'll know in 30 years, but there's definitely like interjection happening. There's definitely disruption happening.
Mm.
So thoughts on like I don't know, how do we walk this line of like this unprincipled infighting versus we want to call things out that are bad versus we want to get out information? What are we thinking? I know Anthony, you've done
Yeah,
kind
you
of a
know, I
lot
have
of
a
work
lot of
on this,
thoughts,
so
but I want
I'd
to
love to
stop
hear your thoughts.
interjecting first.
You're
No, go ahead.
literally the guest. Please speak.
All right, all right. Yeah. So I mean, I think that it comes from. I hate the word intentionality, but it really does come from like where you are, so to speak, and so maybe it's like positionality too, but like it's how you approach things. And again, so much of it is set, right? The stage is set, like we keep saying. So much of it is the platforms that do not want you to have a genuine connection. And like Lenore, you brought up, the focus should be in person community, for folks who aren't
Yes.
disabled or who can or whatever, like, but like the focus should be on how do we actually build real community is my point. And if we really have that desire, then we're going to approach things with a certain amount of patience and curiosity and empathy and so on. And like it's just, yeah, it's hard that that doesn't happen often, but I am a good example of how if you have a problem, you don't have to just cry about it, so to speak, or whatever. You can build your own, sort of communities that are different. And like a huge part of it, honestly, was me just learning to like shut the fuck up and like
Mm.
I create the space, the chat, whatever, and I set up, like I said, the folks who care about it, right? And I think hyper specificity is something I really learned. So it's like instead of one chat with 100 or 200 people, and it's like I'm not against big chats. Sometimes I have those and whatever, but like if you have a chat that is not broad, that is super specific. Like for instance, I'll say like we have like a Star Wars comrades, we have like Lord of the Rings comrades, we have like different like ones, and it's like those chats are great. And it's not just because it's a silly topic and so it stays there, whatever. It's like if there's a real shared kinship around something and people have more buy-in, then it's different. But if it just feels like a space that doesn't have structure, then like sure there's going to be hilarious things that happen or whatever, but you're going to be in, yeah. And I know that's limited, but I'm just using my like view of it. And so it's kind of a microcosm, I'm sure, in different ways, but yeah, so that's kind of where I go with it, is like try to set up spaces that have the right intentions and you articulate those, but where you also let people lead. You don't try to like weigh in too much as the person who's like quote unquote in charge, and like you just, yeah, like I guess are more like able to hear folks out, because it's like the people that are bad faith are gonna show that eventually, and you'll move on or whatever. And it's like I even have there's somebody who like I have beefed with over the years repeatedly, and they're still in a bunch of my chats, and but they're in like the ones that they love, like the book one and what other ones, and so we don't go at it anymore because it's just like they've got their lane, they're engaging, I'm doing mine. And so it's like if you're able to just get through the awkwardness, because yeah, I mean that's so much of any relationship, right? Like, or any like thing meaningful in your life, it's like there's gonna be these like challenges, but like either it's worth it to you, and I've made it clear I can't shake this digital organizing thing. It's like either it's worth it to you or it's not. And so I don't know, yeah, that's where I go with it.
Yeah, I think like the revolution will not happen online, but
Mm,
it is a tool. And I think all of us in our own different ways have found ways to make it really useful. Red Help ATX, we recently just set up a really short little like Google survey whenever somebody wants to. We have like a tier, like a volunteer tier where they don't have to come to our reading group and do all the
mm,
extra stuff. Because some people just are like, I feel like I need to do something. Y'all work with the homeless community, can I come out there? And so we just had a little thing, but we asked, how did you hear about us? And of the last 6 people that joined, 5 of them, it's because of something that I posted. right? Either on my own socials or on Red Help's socials. And like that's undeniable, right? Is that the reach just online has gotten people to come out into the
Hell yeah.
community and do community work. That is obviously showing how valuable it is, right? I also find it frustrating because it means I can't stop posting. But it obviously does work. It is an important piece of the puzzle. Again, the revolution will not be live streamed, right? We are not fighting this thing over the internet, which can also be very controlled by the bourgeoisie, but it is such a really good tool for all the different ways that we've talked about today to get people actually engaged to whatever the best of their ability is. Some people it is creating agitprop online because they're unable to get out into the streets or they live in a rural area or whatever it is, right? But that agitprop then gets other people involved that are able to get out and do things.
That's right.
So I hate to say it, but like it is important. Posting is praxis.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, like, just ask yourself: would Lenin, would Marx, would any of these people, would they be on the internet? The answer is yes. They would have been. Marx probably would have gotten nothing done if he had Twitter. Let's be perfectly honest about that. Let's be
Can
real.
you imagine Capital in 180 character?
It would have been a thread.
segments?
Yeah. Some of y'all don't realize the specter is haunting Europe. Here's a thread on that. Yeah.
Follow
my
for
understanding-
more.
Anthony, I know you got to hop out in a second here.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
No,
Yeah.
don't worry. We're coming up on a little bit time here. So I wanted to see if you had any final thoughts on this issue here.
Well,
yeah.
like I would just say, don't be too like precious about yourself. Like, don't be afraid to embarrass yourself a little bit. Like, ask the stupid question sincerely, and be okay if there's pushback or whatever. And like on the flip side, so that's for the baby leftists, and for the elders or the folks that are more advanced, it's like try to be a little more patient with the folks who don't know as much and aren't at the level that you're at, and especially with like the way that ICE and the horrors now that folks are increasingly going to feel the brunt of, as they like escalate and as people are more interested in our solutions and our voices. Yeah, just try to, without compromising, welcome folks. And I liked, somebody shared once, like, we need more ushers and less gatekeepers on the left, and I really like that. So yeah, doesn't mean there aren't sacred things that need to be protected, or things to call in or call out. I'm also here for that kind of stuff, all the time. Serious harm and whatnot that needs to be addressed, but it's like it can be done in a different way that's more fulfilling for everybody, I would say.
As the great Eugene Puryear once said, Mao's combat liberalism was not about Twitter. It was inter-party discussions there. Well, Anthony, where can people find you online? And we will link everything in the show notes as well.
Oh, thanks. Instagram is where I spend most of my time. And it's J. Anthony DePice. So grateful for Workers Lit. This felt a little bit like the Loud and Gay show, which I love so much. So that's a major compliment.
Oh yeah,
and
we are that. All right. Well, on that note, everybody, we'll see you online and in the streets. Bye.
Never stop posting.
Pages upon pages, words of wisdom from other workers' brow. Got my nose to the spine, not soaking up all the wisdom of their will allow. The workers' tongue and stories, now we want to know every right we enjoy. Away from the lights, away from the noise, we can rebuild everything they destroy. Workers need our workers need, power of the union and the socialist need. Everything I can need, oh I need, oh I need, oh I need, oh the workers need. workers'